What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Friday. Been a crazy week, very busy week, and guess what? We're ending today's week, today and this week, just how we started. It's snowing again in Nashville. So here, live on this Friday morning, we got Sam in his new apartment location. So fresh in the new place that he doesn't have his backdrop up. So it looks like he's sitting next to Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Keith in that hostage video they released last week. And so we'll talk here about the Titans' continued search for their new head coach. Another candidate has been requested to interview, so we'll discuss that. This one coming from the college ranks. So now 11 total interview requests. 7 have been completed virtually. 1 coach has gotten a call back, and we're going to have a great show here live on this Friday morning. So going to have a good one here, Sam. So welcome in live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch here. I know we're live on YouTube, but for some reason it's not showing us the numbers on YouTube. So I know we're live on YouTube. I see the chat comments coming in. So we'll have a great show this morning. And the best ideal candidates for quarterback Will Levis. That is the conversation today. So Sam, welcome in. Hope your move went smooth and wasn't too icy.
Yeah, I mean, we are here. So King Veezy wants to know if I got help to move. I got some help. I had one friend that I, bribed a little bit to come and help me, but it was 2 men and a pickup truck and a lot of ice and snow and a lot of things to move. So because of the weather, like you mentioned, Austin, the wild week of weather, the setup not quite done yet. We are still moving in. I'm a little makeshift today, but we're making it happen and talking Titans regardless. So hostage Sam, whatever you want to call it, we're here. We're ready to go. And for those of you that are here and ready to go, make sure you are sharing the show this morning. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit the share button at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and take the YouTube link, send it to a Titans fan, send it to a friend, go post it on X, and then repost us on X at A to Z Sports. Get the word out there that we're live, that we're talking Titans coaches, that we're giving you some good details on the candidates that could become the Titans' next head coach. And share the show before we go on a Friday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter at A2ZSports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports.network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai, WilsonCountyHyundai.com, to make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And our friends at Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, in Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin, online at KrebsKubota.com. So Sam, hostage Sam for the podcast audience that has not seen the cold open. No mic set up today, no backdrop set up today. You got your A to Z hat for the logo, but we're going to make it work here, right?
Well, I got to say, too, this is like my flu game. I'm playing through injury right now because came away from the move with a weird, mysterious ankle pain. I was like, I don't remember hurting my ankle during this move. And yet after I got all the furniture up, it was hurting a little bit. The forearms, very sore still, carrying a lot of mattresses up a lot of flights of stairs and whatnot. So got some tight forearms. And then not to, brag or anything, but got some calloused hands from putting furniture together. So I'm just going to get it out there right now that this is a flu game, playing through adversity right now. Credit to me for being tough and podcasting anyway. So good for me.
Yeah. No, Orlando says he almost tore his ACL was his first step outside. Yeah, it is an icy one this morning. All that snow that we got earlier in the week is now straight up ice. So be careful with your steps. Keep your feet underneath your hips. That's my advice. When you get overextended, that's when the hamstrings and groins pull. That's when the ACLs go. So keep your feet underneath your hips as you're shuffling wherever you got to go today.
Yeah, and Nick says repeat offender. Yeah, at this point, I'm a repeat offender, as Mike Vrabel would say, because just about every time I move, I end up going, my forearms like hurt pretty bad. I should probably hit more forearm workouts, and
There you go.
somehow found a way to neglect those all the time.
All right, so let's dive into the updated news for the Tennessee Titans head coaching search. We've got some changes. We got our updated graphics that the completed virtual interview list has grown so much to where Sam had to remove the faces from the bottom of the graphic. So Brian Callahan, Mike McDonald, Mike Kafka, Antonio Pierce, those were done on Saturday. Dan Quinn in the middle of the week. And then yesterday on Thursday, Bobby Slowick of the Texans and Thomas Brown of the Panthers completed their virtual interviews. So far, all we know is that Brian Callahan has been the one of the 7 to this point that have gotten a callback for a second interview, but he was also the first to do a virtual interview as well. So that logistically kind of checks out. And then there are 4 more to go to interview this week. David Shaw, the ex-Stanford head coach, gets his name added to the list for the 11th interview request the Tennessee Titans have put in. And they will also interview today on Friday Aaron Glenn, the Lions DC, and Brian Johnson, the Eagles offensive coordinator. So 11 names, Sam. We've got a lot to go from here. So now you got to, can David Shaw even recruit the Southeast? That's my big question of the Tennessee Titans trying to get the ex-Stanford head coach David Shaw. I woke up and I saw it in news this morning. I'm like, what year is this? 2015, 2016? David Shaw getting NFL head coaching interviews. He hasn't coached at Stanford in over a year now. A little bit of a name out of left field, it seems like, in January of 2024.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you. I learned of the David Shaw interview this morning as well.
Yep.
Didn't have a ton of time to do a ton of research before popping on the show. So, there will be an article on AtoZSports.com about David Shaw later today. So that will be done after I conduct more research on the man behind the name. But Austin, my college football knowledge is relatively limited. Can't say I've watched a ton of Stanford football in my day. So I would ask you, why David Shaw? What the heck is this? And like, when I think, that's like, I can hear a college football name and be like, nice. I can hear, he's the head coach there. Nice. I hear this is the guy that built Stanford. That's not necessarily the precedent that I want to set here.
Yeah. So David Shaw, what his background is, he came up under Jim Harbaugh at San Diego State. And then Jim Harbaugh goes to Stanford. Then Jim Harbaugh goes to the 49ers. And David Shaw became the head coach at Stanford in like 2010 or something like that. And was continuing to have a lot of great success. Christian McCaffrey, Andrew Luck, those type of guys were having Toby. No, that was probably pre-David Shaw Stanford, Toby Gerhardt.
Yeah, probably.
But you see a lot of these players, there's a couple tight ends in the NFL that names are not coming to the top of my mind that were Stanford type guys. And David Shaw,
Zach Ertz? I'm just trying to name Stanford
maybe
guys right now.
That could be, yeah. So David Shaw was a very high-level college coach at Stanford where there's a lot of really tough restrictions on what you can do at Stanford because of the academic expectations and standards that Stanford has, right? It's kind of like Vanderbilt, but way better at sports on the left coast. And so David Shaw also created Derek Mason, former Vanderbilt head coach. But David Shaw was getting a ton of interviews for other jobs in college football and then head coaching jobs in the NFL throughout the mid-2010s. He was a hot name, but he stayed at Stanford, won a bunch of games at Stanford. I think he's like 30-ish games over 500 at Stanford. And it was great early in the 2010s, got kind of stale. The college football playoff continued to develop. Stanford somewhat got left behind, but then he ends up, leaving or losing his job at Stanford after the 2022 season, and he hasn't coached since. But David Shaw was a hot name back in the 2015, 2016 era of coaches on the rise. And here's the good thing about David Shaw. He's an offensive guy. He was a wide receiver coach, offensive coordinator before becoming a head coach at Stanford. So that is my Cliff Notes version off the top of my head, where I haven't thought about David Shaw in a long time. But this is the third NFL interview that David Shaw will get in this cycle. He's going to talk to the Chargers and the Seahawks, I believe, as well. So the Titans are not out there by themselves on this David Shaw plank.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, though. This is just so weird, right? Because there's absolutely no precedent for this guy at the NFL level. So, I mean, I see a couple of people in the chat saying, you know what, he can coach. He's a pretty good coach. And that might be true, but we've seen a lot of guys that can coach college football all they want, and they get to the NFL. I mean, like, I think coming out of college, a lot of people would have said, hey, Matt Rule, what a coach. That's a great coach. It didn't work in the National Football League, and it's probably going to go work at Nebraska here as he continues to build their program up for a bunch of years. So it's just hard when you've got a college guy with zero NFL experience. I think I'd be more open to this as a coordinator potentially, or as an advisor, or as some sort of like bring him into your coaching staff. Sure, make him the top guy with no NFL experience. Yeah. That feels like a leap. Like I'm interested in why now for David Shaw. Why is right now, as you mentioned, right? This happens after Andrew Luck gets drafted. This happens after Christian McCaffrey, contends for the Heisman. Okay, like it checks out. I can see why that's a hot name that NFL teams are trying to pull. But 1 year removed from a bunch of losing seasons at Stanford, why is now the time for David Shaw? I don't know. And I'm interested in, what that interview looks like. I don't think I would get on board.
Yeah, I will say he does have NFL coaching experience. He was with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's where he got his start back in 1997 as a quality control coach. Then was with the Oakland Raiders, was the quarterback coach for the Oakland Raiders in 2001. Then he went on to the Baltimore Ravens organization for 3 seasons, it looks like, as a quarterbacks and wide receivers coach before moving to the Jim Harbaugh ranks. San Diego, not San Diego State, but San Diego is where Jim Harbaugh was as the head coach in 2006. And David Shaw was a pass game coordinator and receivers coach there before moving to Stanford with Jim Harbaugh from San Diego. And so he was at Stanford from 2007 to 2022. 3-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year, 5-time division champion, won the National Coach of the Year, the Bobby Dodd Award in 2017. And was the this is crazy. He was the 7-time Coach of the Year in the Pac-12. I think it was not just 4, but was really good. Was 96 and 54 as the Stanford head coach. That's a pretty legit resume there, but it did taper off and got kind of stale there towards the end. So, Sam, that's kind of the update on
Stanford's such a tough job too to assess. You mentioned it, the chat has mentioned it, but like the academic standards of a Stanford make it very difficult to assess. Can this guy recruit at least even for just like a college level? But like, can he coach? Right, because his talent is not going to be at the same level as the USCs, UCLAs, Oregons, Washingtons, and the big name schools that are in the same conference with Stanford.
Sure.
So that it puts everything on like a weird, difficult to judge level, because there's that looming like, well, what is the academic standard and how does it prevent him from actually getting talented players to work with? What could he do with an elevated roster? Maybe it's a different conversation we're having.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the update on David Shaw. So the 11th name to be requested for an interview. So just to recap this. So the 7 completed virtual interviews: Callahan, McDonald, Kafka, Pierce, Quinn, and then yesterday on Thursday, Slowick and Thomas Brown. And then 4 more interviews to happen virtually before in-person interviews begin Monday. Aaron Glenn and Brian Johnson will interview today with the Tennessee Titans virtually, and then Ben Johnson and David Shaw, who we've been talking about, are the last 2 guys to have those scheduled interviews reported out there. But Sam, let's switch gears a little bit. We haven't really talked at all about who's the best candidate or ideal candidate for quarterback Will Levis. We've always, obviously, everybody that's talked on this morning show, whether it's me, you, Zach, or Jack has said offensive-minded head coach, please do not go defensive-minded head coach. You have Will Levis, the opportunity, yada, yada. We've been over it a bunch. But who is the most ideal candidate for Will Levis in this candidate group? So which Titans coaching candidate would be best for Will Levis? That is the question we want to go ahead and ask you guys today, now that we've gone through the updates from the news. So we'll get your opinions on who the best for Will Levis is. But first, I want to tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans. They can take care of you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans across the entire state for over 75 years. That's a long time doing it. They've adjusted with the times and continuously give you the best customer service, the best rates, and the best quality health plans for your situation across the board. You can go the whole kit and caboodle, health, dental, vision, but maybe you got some gaps you want to fill in. Maybe your employer's health or your employer's dental or vision plan is not up to the par you want it to be. Farm Bureau Health Plans, you can just go get dental or vision with them and not have to do the whole thing. But they've been serving Tennesseans and A to Z sports employees for a long time. Zach Bingham, Jack Gentry have joined the Farm Bureau Health Plans family. You can too, and it's so easy to do it. fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. You can use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet does not win. Whatever that first bet wager amount is and that deposit amount is, if it loses, that money can go back into your account in the form of a bonus bet. You just have to sign up with BetMGM and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up. That's why they're the king of sportsbooks and why you're sports betting this NFL playoff needs to be done with BetMGM and BetMGM.com.
All right, Sam, I will send you to the chat. We're asking the question, which Titans coaching candidate would be best for quarterback Will Levis? Obviously, Amy Adams Strunk in her hostage video, where I don't know if you're in the same room as they were last week when they recorded that, but said a promising young quarterback in Will Levis is going to be a part of what attracts a candidate to this job, but also what the Titans are going to try to maximize with Will Levis here. So what's the chat saying about the Will Levis best fits?
Yeah, we're getting Brian Callahan from Scott, Brian Callahan from Hello Ladies. We got Callahan from Peyton and Nathan. Curtis thinks it's Ben Johnson. Noah thinks it's Bobby Slowick. Callahan again. Callahan from Paul. Slowick from IR Hoshi. Chandler says Callahan hands down. Slowick from Tighten Up. Slowick from Michael Hurd Jr. Andre's got Johnson or Slowick 4, Johnson 3, the other Johnson 2, and Brian Callahan 1, coming in with some rankings. Like
I like it, Andre.
The A to Z Sports, A to Z Sports.com on the website. I had rankings come out. Callahan from Derek, Callahan or Slowick. Ben Johnson is the answer from Stephen King. More Callahan from Tony and Jody. Slowick from American Top. So overall, as I continue scrolling through here, Austin, it seems like the two most popular names from the chat, Brian Callahan, Bobby Slowick, two guys that were in my top 3 on my rankings.
One second here, because Stephen King says Ben Johnson. The other OCs had first QB of the draft.
Well,
what is Jared Goff, though, Stephen King?
CJ Stroud was also
not second quarterback of the draft, technically.
But
what is the Ben Johnson's got a first overall draft pick and Jared Goff, who is a veteran. Like Stephen King's
I guess
doesn't check out.
He might look at it as more of like Jared Goff is a resurgence, right? And he took like a veteran at the time.
Ben Johnson should get credit for, right?
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying it's Ben Johnson because the other two, being Slowick and Callahan, had the top young quarterback versus Ben Johnson built up Jared Goff as like a resurgence. But I guess if you're going on technicalities, like he also has first overall
a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
yeah, at quarterback. So, all right. So, Sam, I'm curious, what is your candidate? Who is your candidate that is the best fit for Will Levis of these 11? As I saw you start a chat here, MB says it's a wide net. You guys are reading too much into everything, but there's 11 candidates out there So,
Well, it
Sam,
is.
what is your opinion here?
I do want to say to MB, like, he's absolutely right. The only thing we really know about the Titans search, I saw Buck Rising tweeted this morning, is that it's a wide net. That's essentially the only thing we know at this point for what they're prioritizing, what they're looking for. Because they've shared so little information, it leaves us in a spot where we're just like, okay, are you serious about David Shaw? Are you just trying to pick his brain? Is this a legit, like, why the heck are we interviewing Mike Kafka and Antonio Pierce? I don't know, but here we are. So
at some point, if you stretch yourself too thin in this wide net, the net's not going to be very strong, and you're going to get a hole poked through it. You know?
Which is why I'm going to be very interested in seeing what other names come up in the second interview cycle here. We know Definitely. Brian Callahan's getting a second interview, but who joins him? That'll be very telling as far as who the finalists are for this job. Austin, the Titans have also told us that they are not solely basing their search on Will Levis. It's going to be a priority, but they are not taking this approach of, okay, well, we have to do only the best thing for Will Levis. But when I did my rankings, it was kind of what I had in mind of, experience, how you can coach a team and your leadership style, but really what is best for the best part of your team right now, which is Will Levis. And so my number one in the ranking, because I think he's the best option, is Brian Callahan. It is Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. He has a lot of experience with different quarterbacks of all types, from Tim Tebow with the Denver Broncos to working his way up to the quarterback coach for Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos, to Derek Carr, to Matthew Stafford with the Lions in back-to-back years that the Lions went over 500. One year they made the playoffs. He was helping Matthew Stafford. And then he's been in Cincinnati, worked with Andy Dalton. He's worked with Joe Burrow. He has now worked with Jake Browning. I saw a chat earlier that mentioned this factor, but how good Jake Browning looked in a Bengals uniform is something that is really credited to Brian Callahan. His ability to marry the run game to the pass game, to use play action. That was a thing, by the way, that helped Jake Browning succeed in the Bengals offense, was an immediate uptick in play action usage in their offense coming from under center, and how he thrived, right? I look at a skill set of Will Levis and say, Brian Callahan knows how to use the run game to give his quarterback time in the pocket and allow, if a Jake Browning can look as good as he did for portions of the season, I think he can take Will Levis's game to the next level. And Ken wants to know, can he fix the O-line? This is the determining factor for me of why he's number one, why he's the top dog. Do you know who his dad is? Bill Callahan.
Old Bill Callahan.
Offensive line coach of the Cleveland Browns. And I'd be willing to bet he is following his son if Brian Callahan gets the job. So you're getting the head coach for the quarterback. You're also getting potentially a really, really good offensive line coach coming along with him. So let's protect the QB. Let's get the quarterback guru in here to help him. This is some stuff from my article about Brian Callahan, of why I thought he was so ideal. Callahan is a candidate with a ton of experience working with quarterbacks, helping them excel. The ability to adapt to his personnel, shown in Jake Browning, running the ball successfully, using play action to put his quarterback in a position to succeed. I think finding the right dance partner for Will Levis should be at the top of the priority list, and Callahan is the perfect match for it. So this is my guy, and Will Levis is a big reason why.
I like Brian Callahan a lot too. And we played this yesterday, Sam, but we'll play it again because Brian Callahan does not call plays for the Bengals. But Zach Taylor, the head coach, who is the play caller, talked to Baby of ESPN.com about Brian Callahan. And this is just 20 seconds long, but it's a fantastic ringing endorsement for the Bengals OC.
He coordinates everything having to do with it. He establishes the whole structure of our offense. On game day, he and I are in constant communication. That is calling plays. That is establishing an offense. He has helped develop every position we have. He's invaluable. There's really not enough things I can say about him that if someone just followed us for a week and saw it, it would be, oh, no wonder everyone's so high on Brian.
No wonder, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's really high praise. I think there is a level anytime you see a coordinator who doesn't call plays necessarily, actually call the plays, there is some concern. It was a concern I had with some of the candidates on the list is how much coordinator experience do you have and whatever. But you hear from Zach Taylor just how much Brian Callahan does behind the scenes to make the offense function at the level that it does. And by the way, Austin, Brian Callahan, fact that I learned over this week here, is the longest tenured coordinator, offense, defense, or special teams across the board in the NFL. The longest tenured coordinator of any kind. He's been with the Bengals since before Joe Burrow even got there. It's 5 years plus of experience. 2019. Yeah. And so I heard that fact this week that there is not another coordinator at special teams, offense, or defense around the NFL that has been with one team in the same role for longer than Brian Callahan. I thought that was another testament to the value he's provided in Cincinnati and the unique, I think, next level of experience that he has that a lot of the other OCs on the Titans candidate list don't have.
I think that's pretty wild. How many offensive coordinators have the Tennessee Titans had since 2019?
Well, Tim Kelly, Todd Downing, Matt LaFleur, Arthur.
LaFleur was technically 18, so that's kind of the trick question part of
it. But
right,
was there for 2 years.
Yes,
but, hey, you've had 3. Cincinnati's had 1. You're about to hire a 4th, and if Brian Callahan doesn't get a head coaching job, he's going to still be the OC.
Yeah, and how many defensive coordinators have the Tennessee Titans had since 2019? That's kind of a trick question too. Because the answer is also 3, because it was Dean Pease, Mike Vrabel, Shane Bowen.
Mike Vrabel, yeah.
Mike Vrabel, the 1 year that he didn't name a coordinator and was basically just doing it himself and confusing everybody in the 2020 season when they had the worst third down defense in the history of football. So, look, it's pretty wild right there. I think that just shows you of how crazy it is that 5 years, 19, 20, 5 seasons is the longest tenured coordinator in the entire league on either side of the ball, special teams included. That's how fast this NFL league
it was
moves.
He became it. The Saints just fired their defensive coordinator, I believe. And with the Saints firing I think that's where, maybe it was the OC. The Saints fired somebody, and when they fired him, it turned over to Brian Callahan. So.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. All right, so Sam, I like Brian Callahan a lot. Is he the guy that best fits what Will Levis needs? Maybe. He's definitely one of my guys, but I'm not going to go with that answer because that would be boring. You just laid out a lot of good stuff about Brian Callahan. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go with somebody that I don't think is getting near enough respect in this head coaching search season. I'll get into that, but real quick, like the show. We got a lot of people watching on Facebook that haven't liked the show yet. A lot of people watching on YouTube who haven't liked the show yet. So like the show. Hit that like button. Jack has been doing YouTube comments first since they have more likes until Facebook catches up. So if you want your Facebook comments to be read first, Jason, then hit that like button for everybody watching on the show today. So Sam, my guy that I'm going to say is not getting enough respect. So if we're talking about Brian Callahan being one of the better options for Will Levis, I think somebody who interviewed yesterday for the Tennessee Titans job, not named Bobby Slowick, is right there too.
Ooh,
I'm going to go with your boy Thomas Brown. I think Thomas Brown is a under the radar candidate. You wrote that article with that headline yesterday. And I took this excerpt from this. These are Sam's words here. Sam's words that I'm using to prop my opinion up on Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown was a college coordinator with Miami, where they averaged over 30 points a game throughout his OC play calling career at the U. Then he jumped in and became an assistant head coach as well as running backs coach with the Rams. The Sean McVay offense is perfect for Will Levis. These are Sam's words. The Rams love to air it out and take deep shots down the field. During the resurgent 2021 season, Matthew Stafford led all quarterbacks in air yards per attempt and completions 30-plus yards. Stafford was second in 30-plus yards in 2023. The Rams' offense is so Will Levis coded that they could literally brought in his college offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, to be the OC in 2022, but injuries derailed the season. I think Thomas Brown is a really good fit for Will Levis because you look at what Will Levis is, I think a really good comp of what can Will Levis grow into. I think Matthew Stafford would be a really good pro comp for Levis. A lot of people are talking about Josh Allen for Will Levis. Josh Allen runs way too much and way more than what Levis does. But I think Matt Stafford, who's got a ton of arm talent and athletic ability, is a good comp for Will Levis.
Yeah, Detroit Matt Stafford had that, like, I'm going to run and dive, and, like, he was just a big old linebacker that could throw the ball. And, like, Will Levis has a level of that where he's not going to rely on his legs, but if you get him going and you're a defender that's on the other end of Will Levis, just like back in the day, if you were on the other end of Matt Stafford running free looking for a first down, that was not going to be an easy tackle or a fun trip for whatever defender was on the other side of that. So I do think it's a great comp. And like you said, Matt Stafford is at his best, as you see in some of those numbers, airing the ball out, throwing it deep. It like Sean McVay has done a tremendous job. One, like, what do we know from Detroit Matt Stafford? Basically, their team was like, Calvin down there somewhere. Like, and he'd just throw the ball up, right? And then when he lost Calvin, not as great. But Sean McVay has found a way, whether it be Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp or,
Robert Woods, Van Jefferson,
Brandon Cooks, Van Jefferson, whatever. The route
Odell Beckham.
I mean, the route concepts that they run in LA and have given Matthew Stafford, like, allow him to air the ball out and take shots down the field. And a guy in Thomas Brown, running back background, became a tight end coach. Tight end coach is interesting, right? That's Mike Vrabel's former, like, go-to coordinator in waiting position.
Yeah.
For a reason, because tight ends they're the one position on the field that are know how to marry the run game and the pass game, right? They know how to make runs look like passes and passes look like runs and disguise different things. Tight end coaches work with that. So he went from running backs coach to tight ends coach. You want to look at a guy who can marry that run game with the pass game. Like I said, look at the college running backs coach that helped Melvin Gordon, helped Sony Michel, helped Nick Chubb, and has had a ton of success at the NFL level while also experience under Sean McVay. I think there's something there. It's why I don't think he's the top guy. I would much rather prefer Brian Callahan. That's why I had them number 1 and number 4 in my ranking, but I don't hate this answer.
Yeah, I see. Why is Thomas Brown ahead of Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick in this? I think it's because the staff opportunity that Thomas Brown can bring in. And the Liam Cohen, that would be ideal. Cohen's already interviewed for the Bears OC job. Liam Cohen was at Kentucky during Levis's junior year when he really balled out. He goes to the Rams, and Will Levis struggled a little bit, became a second-round pick, and then Cohen went right back to Kentucky, and Kentucky's offense was not as talented. Devin Leary's not that great, but here we are with Mark Stoops getting more raises and everything with what Kentucky can do by winning 7 games a year. But so here's the thought on, because I see a lot of people, Jermel asking, what team is Brown with? A lot of people hating on the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are bad, awful. They're the worst team in the NFL. No doubt about that. But that's not because of Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown hadn't been there that long.
You have to give Thomas Brown, and we talked about this on the show Wednesday when I discussed why I felt like he was so underrated. I think you have to just give him some slack here, because not only were the Carolina Panthers terrible from a roster perspective, Austin, they fired their offensive-minded head coach in like week 7, and they fired the quarterback's coach. You're giving an offensive coordinator. It's why David Tepper is such a problem, and it's a crime what he's doing with that organization right now, because you drafted a first overall pick at quarterback, which, by the way, He forced them to take Bryce Young. Josh McCown and Frank Reich did not want Bryce Young. They wanted CJ Stroud, and David Tepper said, no, we're taking the most hyped guy. But then you take away the head coach and the quarterback's coach, like lack of continuity for a rookie QB. It put Thomas Brown in a really bad spot. Yeah. Sure, the offense was bad to start the year, like just as much, but it was even worse in the back half once those guys got fired. And so I think he gets a little bit of grace here from me.
Yeah, and so the Panthers had the 32nd ranked offense in the NFL, right? That's dead last. The last time the Titans hired a head coach, they hired a coordinator who ran the worst unit in the entire NFL. Remember, Mike Vrabel's Texans defense ranked 32nd in the NFL. And so I like what Thomas Brown can be from all that we've learned about the other two guys. Because I think when you're talking about the offensive-minded head coaches, and in your rankings, Sam, you have 4 offensive-minded guys, 1 through 4, in your head coach rankings, and Mike McDonald's the top defensive name at 5th. But you're talking about Callahan, Ben Johnson, Slowick, and Thomas Brown. What we've learned about Thomas Brown and Callahan is that they have the personality of a head coach. And you have to have a strong leadership mind, a strong presence in a room to be able to.
Who are you saying that about? Sorry.
Callahan and Thomas Brown.
Oh, I agree. Totally. Yeah.
What we don't know, and what we've heard more of the opposite, is that Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson maybe don't have it quite yet. Not that they're the
Ben
wrong
Johnson,
personality.
I think might, but I think like that second year in Detroit might have helped him. I just don't know if Ben Johnson has a ton of interest in leaving. Like that's a big factor here, is like that nobody knows what he's paid, but he's paid very, very well by the Lions right now and got a raise. And so it's like, does he, especially when you're getting a head coach job, it has to be the right job. Because if you don't take the right job, if you just take a job to take a job, you'll get fired, and it might be your only shot at it. And so, like, if you are Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick or one of these guys that looks promising and has that talented young quarterback, are you sold on the Titans job or one of the jobs being offered to you right now to make that leap? We have to see. Nobody knows that, but people that are in those interviews right now.
Yeah, and so Brian Callahan would probably be my number 1, and Thomas Brown is right there, somebody that I have growing intrigue in on how he can be a head coach with the connections that he's got. Look, the places that Thomas Brown has been, you named him, right? It's Wisconsin, Georgia, Miami in the college game, then South Carolina as well, maybe then in. That was when Spurrier maybe had South Carolina going pretty well based on the timeline of Georgia and Wisconsin with Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, Melvin Gordon type of dudes.
After Georgia, I think he did a year at South Carolina.
Right. And then you see he goes to the Rams, and he wasn't just a position coach, but he was an assistant head coach title with Sean McVay as a position coach. And I think that's a big deal, and it's what Thomas Brown could bring in around him for an offensive staff to benefit Will Levis. I think there's a lot of intrigue there for me. And, a former player gets more respect than a guy who has not played at the NFL level who's a coach. That's just how it works. And Thomas Brown checks that box. You don't have to hire somebody who checks that box. You don't have to by any means. But there is a little bit of a difference of when the guy standing in front of the team meeting room wore the shoulder pads too in the league. And Thomas Brown has that. Not to the level of Vrabel, but still, he's been in the league.
Yeah, I'm very the Liam Cohen offensive coordinator thing. Maybe the Titans could, like maybe any Titans head coaching hire could always hit up Liam Cohen and hire Liam Cohen. Maybe you could hire Thomas Brown as the OC. I mean, he did take an interview with the Bears for their offensive coordinator job. So he's looking at potentially leaving Carolina. Is like, hey, if I want to be a head coach somewhere, I might have to actually run an offense that has talent on it for a minute. So maybe you could hire him as your offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's something he'd be open to, but maybe if he is the head coach, it is Liam Cohen. I love the idea of Liam Cohen as an OC. I had an entire article about that as well, because Like, if you have a guy who's called plays, Thomas Brown has called plays in the past. Now your offensive coordinator is just the best buddy to your quarterback, a guy who knows your quarterback better than anybody else, knows what helps him succeed, knows what he needs to be at his best, and how to run an offense that prioritizes him. And so it makes the job of a Thomas Brown, who doesn't have as much experience working hands-on with a QB, so much easier, because not only do you have a QB guy, you have the QB guy for your QB in Liam Cohen potentially alongside him. It would be, he is a guy who, like, the OC hire, I think, is important to support Thomas Brown.
Yeah.
But I think because of what you mentioned, his connections to the Rams, especially, there's a lot of dudes that he's worked with in the past that would be really good fits for Tennessee.
All right, let's do this real quick because I find this intriguing. I want us to go through the 11 names that have been requested and think of how many of these 11 could be the coordinator for one of the other guys in the list of 11. Because the Titans did this with Vrabel and LaFleur in 2018. Both interviewed for the head coaching job. Vrabel gets the head gig. LaFleur gets the OC. A year later, LaFleur goes to the Packers. So let's look at this list of 11 to see how many of these guys could fit what we're talking about right here. But first, Sam, tell everybody about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, they're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and you don't want to fumble on your recovery, but you can go to the Bone and Joint Institute. You're never fumbling with them, with good doctors and a state-of-the-art rehab facility located in Franklin to assist in your recovery. Everything's under one roof at the Bone and Joint Institute, so you're not driving all over Middle Tennessee in these icy conditions to get to different appointments. It's a one-stop shop, clinic, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing. It's all in the same spot at the Bone and Joint Institute. So schedule your appointment with them at boneandjointtn.org.
All right, with BetMGM, you can always win big with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ Sports to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that first bet misses. But also during playoff time, you can win big, but don't have to give up as much, because if you sign up with code ATOZ200, that's ATOZ200, all you got to do, $5 moneyline wager on any playoff game this upcoming weekend or next weekend. A $5 moneyline wager wins you $158 in bonus bets instantly, regardless of the outcome of that moneyline wager. That's with code ATOZ200. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and other requirements. Rewards issued in numbers of bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem, get a sport call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. All right, so Sam, how many of these 11 names could also be a coordinator with one of the other guys who gets a head coaching call? So
yeah,
here are the 7 that have already interviewed. And then I'll pull up the 4 that have not interviewed yet, but Aaron Glenn and Brian Johnson are going to be talking today.
So yeah, are you thinking more like legally, right? Like who's allowed, right? Because like Mike McDonald could not be the Titans defensive coordinator by the letter of the law in the NFL. But I mean, okay, I guess
that's not fair. That's a good distinction to make. But I guess I got who could be the Matt LaFleur to the Mike Vrabel of this list of 11.
So I think Thomas Brown is one that comes to mind. I think Brian Johnson is another one. There's a lot of uncertainty in Philadelphia about that coaching staff in general. He's a one-year coordinator who I doubt would be retained if they move on from Nick Sirianni. And he doesn't have full play calling. Like he has some play calling, but not full play calling. So you could make it a promotion of some sort just to make him your offensive coordinator and elevate him from that sense. So those are the first 2 that really.
Thomas Brown and Brian Johnson.
Thomas Brown and Brian Johnson are the first 2. Like, I don't think a Slowick would go anywhere. Ben Johnson.
That's a lateral move too, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, yeah, because Slowick does call plays. So it's also a lateral move.
I've got one more.
Okay. I mean, could Dan Quinn be the DC? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
But that would also be a lateral move from the
same
thing.
But I'm kind of thinking if he's not necessarily retained in Dallas, if they move on in their coaching staff. I feel like
Well,
he'd be back, though.
the Cowboys are sticking with McCarthy, so
Oh, are
we
they?
do know that. Yeah,
Okay,
we do know that. So
I missed that.
the other one is who we talked about to start the show, David Shaw.
Yeah, I
Right?
think that checks out. I mean,
David Shaw.
the Lions guys aren't going to go anywhere other than Detroit. But David Shaw, if he is getting this is what the chat suggested. Credit to the chat for this, right? If he's looking to come back into the NFL, maybe he needs to prove, hey, I was last in the NFL in the 90s. Prove that you still got it in a very, very different league today. So you can come in and be an offensive coordinator potentially for a team that's hiring a new staff. I would be open to that. I got to do more research on David Shaw and, what he's done well at Stanford. But I do think that's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, so David Shaw as offensive coordinator under anybody on that list. I think if you're bringing in Brian Callahan, I would be interested in Brian Johnson or Thomas Brown as an OC if they are not retained by the Eagles and Panthers respectively.
Well, yeah, technically I'm not. You don't Thomas Brown would not need to not be retained. He could leave because his head coach that he took the job with is no longer employed. And so you can dip if your head coach is not the head coach anymore. So there's a bunch of different weird rules for it. You can give somebody play calling responsibilities and view it as a promotion. You can slap them with an assistant head coach title or something like that if it's a position coach, and then you can view it as a promotion. So I think my perfect scenario, if I'm dreaming up a scenario, is Brian Callahan as the head coach, and either Thomas Brown or Liam Cohen is your offensive coordinator. I would be over the moon at that result, and I would talk about the guy below me a whole lot less if I had a Brian Callahan, Thomas Brown combo. I'll enjoy watching Mike Vrabel go 10-7 with the Seahawks, and I will, sit back and be feeling pretty good about the Titans' offensive situation if that's where they end up going.
All right, let's talk about the head coach that just left here. Mike Vrabel is receiving interest from 3 NFL teams as of this morning. What would be the best fit for Vrabel in his next stop? Because we know you guys still care about him because we see analytics. So what would be Mike Vrabel's best fit for his next stop? So we'll get to that and all of your opinions on it. But first, let me tell you guys about Krebs Kubota. Krebs Kubota is an elite Kubota dealer and where you should get all of your equipment, because being an elite Kubota dealer means they have the best equipment in the industry, the best warranties in the industry. And so whatever that equipment may be, whether it's small, mower, trimmer, maybe you got a goofy yard, you got a hill, you got a ditch in that yard, you got to be careful with, you don't want to flip it. So you have to have the right mower for that yard, for that property. Krebs Kubota can hook you up. They've also got the best customer service in the entire area as well, across the mid-state for any equipment brand or company. Krebs Kubota has 3 locations in the mid-state: Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. The best customer service from a family-owned and operated company. Yeah, it sounds great, right? But it's so good, this family-owned and operated company was able to expand to 3 locations after starting in 1 location originally in Columbia 18 years ago. So 18 years later, Columbia, Murfreesboro, Franklin. So check them out online for all of your equipment needs at KrebsKubota.com.
Today's show powered by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and BetMGM.com to get up to $1,500 back in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet loses. If you're not with BetMGM, go get with BetMGM right now before divisional weekend kicks off. Here we got 4 hopefully good games. Hopefully it's better than Wild Card Weekend. Hopefully very good games coming down the pipeline in the NFL playoffs. Do your betting with the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. And whatever your first wager is, if it loses, that money's back into your account in the form of a bonus bet up to $1,500. King of sportsbooks, BetMGM.com.
All right, so Sam, we're asking the question, what would be the best fit for Mike Vrabel's next job as a head coach? He has already completed his initial interview with the LA Chargers, where Jim Harbaugh has as well. And this morning, it was reported from the NFL Network that Vrabel also has interest from the Seattle Seahawks and from the Atlanta Falcons to be their next head coach. So Chargers, Falcons, Seahawks. Man, the Falcons would be really close to
Don't
all
coach
of
his
you guys.
son.
Yeah, his son's still around there, which Vrabel I don't necessarily think has any interest in coaching his son. I don't think he wants
Yeah,
any
honestly,
of that
he'll probably cut his son. That's a
Yeah,
Vrabel.
it's go somewhere else so I don't have to deal with this. So Falcons, Seahawks, Chargers. What's the best fit for Vrabel's next spot?
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying Seattle. A lot of people are saying the Chargers. Overwhelming Seattle from Caleb and Billy and Top Tier and Ken. Chargers from Steven Rodriguez. My thought, Austin, honestly, I thought I was going to say Seattle. It's weird. I can see Seattle. Seattle's the one that I can just see him being the Seahawks head.
I can visualize him in his sideline arms crossed stance with his headset, standing in the rain with no hat in Seattle. With getting rained on with his
literally
face.
That exact outfit, except the sleeves are neon green, and he's just you got a little Seahawks logo right here.
Yeah,
that's how I see it. So I can picture it, but I think the best fit for him is the Chargers because the challenge with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee has always been, can you hire the offensive coordinator? I think having Justin Herbert makes that a lot easier. Where he goes to Seattle, he goes to Atlanta right now. You're going to need to get a young quarterback and develop that young quarterback and build an explosive offense, right? They don't have a QB situation figured out in either of those spots. But I think going and being the leader in LA, running some of the defensive stuff for the Chargers, and then just, you kind of say, hey, Art, come down and be the offensive coordinator for Justin Herbert. You let Justin Herbert go be your offensive coordinator pretty much and handle a lot of the offensive burden is the best spot for Mike Vrabel to win. So I would say the Los Angeles Chargers.
So remember, Stephen King brings this up. Pete Carroll discussing player personnel with Braves would be hilarious because Pete Carroll's not going away, an advisor or whatever the hell.
So not yet. That would also, we're not sure what Mike Vrabel wants, but if this roster control sort of thing is true, right? If that's something that he's looking for, how much is Seattle going to be willing to give that to him when they've kept it, retained their general manager, and now added Pete Carroll to an advisory front office role? I'm not sure Mike Vrabel wants to walk into a place and feel like he's answering to two other people in terms of who he can and can't bring into his football team.
So this is a hard question for me because I'm trying to feel out the hypothetical dominoes. The Chargers make sense because Mike Vrabel needs a veteran quarterback. That is when Mike Vrabel would be at his best, not having to deal with the development, young, dumb mistakes that a young quarterback's going to make.
And and in my opinion, not a quarterback that relies on scheme, right? Geno Smith has been awesome for the Seahawks the last 2 years overall, just been really solid, but they've also done a ton. Credit to Shane Waldron with what they've done with that offense to make him excel. And you might not have Shane Waldron, probably won't have Shane Waldron as your offensive coordinator there anymore. And so what is Geno Smith moving forward? We don't know. And as I mentioned, Atlanta is a complete mystery. Justin Herbert's going to Justin Herbert.
But let's say this. If Mike Vrabel goes to Seattle or LA, Arthur Smith could follow.
True.
And not in Atlanta, obviously. That would be the
Atlanta.
most awkward, revolving door, Homer Simpson gif.
That was more common. We need to normalize that because Bears fans, as one of them, we're sitting here all year being like, what the heck do you do with Matt Eberflus? He kind of sucks as a head coach, but the defense is awesome. And we're like, can we just move him to DC? Can we just make him the defensive coordinator and bring in a different guy? I wish that was more popular of hey, Art, you know what you're doing offensively, but this whole head coach thing is not for you. So just,
they're just going to bring your old boss in and let you just do what you were doing in 2019 and 2020. So, but I also think of the other domino of quarterback. Herbert checks that box. Atlanta doesn't have anybody. And then you got Seattle with Geno. And so I could also see, I can visualize Mike Vrabel standing in the Seattle rain. I can visualize what a number 17 in black and red looks like with Tannehill across the back in Atlanta. I can see that. I could see Mike Vrabel and Ryan Tannehill together in Atlanta.
I just, I can see. I don't know where Ryan Tannehill's going to go, but I think Mike Vrabel getting fired is very good for Ryan Tannehill because he's starting to like see potential. Like, oh, I could get signed here or here or here, and
coach, call me when you find your spot. Thanks.
Yeah, I see a comment here in the chat too that says like Derrick Henry and DK Metcalf would be crazy. I don't know if any of these teams, because Bijan in Atlanta, Austin Eckler and LA, even though Eckler is kind of a
that's like a complete,
different.
It's like a rent-a-cop sitcom.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're happy with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker in Seattle. So I don't know if they're in the market for Derrick Henry. But my question would be, you mentioned Ryan Tannehill following Mike Vrabel. Do we think he signs Derrick Henry? Because that's what I see more than I see Ryan Tannehill.
That's a completely different show, Sam.
No, I know. More than I see Ryan Tannehill following Mike Vrabel. Like, we know that Mike Vrabel is the only person on the planet in the league right now that still believes in like, hey, we can win a Super Bowl running the ball 35 times. And I think if anybody was still going to go pay Derrick Henry and give him 300 carries, it would be Mike Vrabel with Team X. And getting fired is just a new opportunity to go somewhere else and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. I can see that happening for sure.
Yeah. I feel like so I guess my official answer would be I kind of like the Falcons. I kind of think the Falcons is the best fit.
It's too close.
Too close?
Too close to home.
Okay.
Yeah, like you can go to the Falcons, but like I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it could work there. I just like I don't know. I pick go West Coast, Mike. Go enjoy the beach. Go to Los Angeles and like give me beach Mike Vrabel and get far, far away from Tennessee. I'm not sure he wants to do that. I mean, I know like Carter is still his son Carter.
Dear football gods, make me a bird. Fly me so far, far away from here. Right?
Yeah.
You have no idea what that's from, do you?
No, not at all.
Well, I added the football in it.
Was it like Little Giants? I'm taking a guess.
No, it's not a sports movie. Well, kind of sports movie.
Dear football gods is not in the sports
No,
movie.
I added the football. It's Dear God.
Okay, so
somebody got it in the chat. Somebody got it.
Forrest
Thank
Gump?
you.
See, I've never seen Forrest Gump. That's a weird one that I've never seen.
Forrest Gump's great history movie, Sam. It's everything's correct in history in Forrest Gump.
Every like movie fan that like watches a lot of movies, I feel like has one movie that's like your weird movie that you've never seen. Mine is Forrest Gump. It's the one that I've never like. I watch a ton of movies, but I feel like I've seen Forrest Gump a million times from every clip in the world out there, and so I've never actually taken the time to sit down and watch it. So
yeah, you should do that once you get your new TV setup hooked up.
Yeah, once I get the situation around me figured out. I've been spending like majority of every day building furniture and lifting stuff for like this week.
All right, Justin says end the show and go watch Forrest Gump, Sam. So maybe you can do that. It's going to be snowy and icy for the next 3 days, so you're going to have plenty of time of researching David Shaw and go looking at Forrest Gump throughout the next 72 hours. So, Sam, let's go ahead and get to Ain't That Good News to wrap up this Friday show. It's been a crazy, icy, snowy week. So time to end it the right way with good news. Share your good news in the chat. Let's get it rolling. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. See Payne Bone while you're there and tell them we said, hey, at WilsonCountyHyundai.com or in Lebanon. So ain't that good news? Share your good news to the chat. Sam, I'll let you either go first or you can head to good news. I see Zach Goodman says, or Noah says, good news. I'll be watching Forrest Gump tonight. So congratulations for your 2 hours of your time this evening.
There you go. Zach says the ice at his house is finally melting. Is this factual? Is the ice melting today?
No, not for me.
maybe he's not in Nashville because although
I'm seeing snow.
I
see snow and I see what looks like a snow-nado. like
What?
snow swirling in the air like a tornado.
Oh, see, all right, not to dox. I don't see that at all. Not to dox myself, but I'm looking out a window, like down at 65 right now, and they look relatively clear.
Well, it's an interstate. It's a major interstate. Of course, that's going to be clear.
Well, yeah, but it's like no ice. I don't see like cars are going pretty fast, and I don't see a bunch of wrecks happening. So that's maybe
We'll just get Sam traffic reports now from his new window.
Honestly, yeah, I'll be like 65 north is a little backed up. Yeah, I'm there in the town right now. So let's see other good news. Let's see, we've got Ohio State hired Bill O'Brien as OC. Another
yes,
5
that
years.
happened.
That happened. Oh goodness,
that happened. Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State now.
That's interesting. John says his wife and him lost their baby in October and are pregnant again. So that is fantastic news, John. Big congratulations from A to Z Sports to you. Let's see. I reconnected with my senior drill instructor from boot camp recently. He's a lot nicer now. We've got good news. Alabama is losing a ton of talent in the transfer portal. I'm sure
they are.
That, Austin.
Yes.
Let's see.
We got there because that was one of my candidates for good news today, but it's not. But welcome to college football, Alabama fans. This has been the life for just about everybody else for the last 17 years. So congratulations. Join us. Sit down on the couch with us to see all of your best talent get scooped up. And I also think it's hilarious of all the Alabama fans over the years that are saying, Nick Saban built it. When Saban retires, we'll be fine because the system's already in place. Oh, Nick Saban's gone? The system looks like it's going with him because those players are hitting the door.
I do like Kalen DeBoer a lot, though. I think they got the hire right. But I mean, it is Saban had built Alabama to a different level of like being above reality, because reality in college football is that there's going to be a couple 8-4s mixed in with the 11-1s, and you have to be ready for like that upswing and downswing, and having to constantly recruit, constantly hit the portal and hammer that stuff. And Alabama's kind of just been above reproach in that sense, and they've been able to sit back and let all the best kids always come to them because of what Nick Saban built, because they were just on a different level. Kalen DeBoer could be a great head coach, and he can definitely win at Alabama, could win a national title or two at Alabama, but it's going to take work to get there, and it's not going to be a snap your fingers, we're the best team in the country like it has been. So
no, I mean, look, they've got, let's see, I'm looking, Alabama had 3 5-stars in its number 2 class that just got signed, and now it's just down to 1. So they've had 2 of their 3 5-stars. That's from Emily Proud, our friend over at 24/7. But that, it's happening fast for Alabama. They're all out the door here. So that's not my good news, but I wanted to give a little more context to that.
Yeah, Danny says his son got back into welding school after they screwed up his paperwork. Stevens can finally bear weight on his leg after shattering his ankle playing flag football. Oh, gosh. I had an ankle injury one time. There was like a fracture to the growth plate in my ankle when I was a freshman in high school. And that sucked. Like that was one of those ones that inconvenienced everything. So, Steven, that is fantastic to hear that you are on the road to recovery. Austin, my good news is that hopefully, weather permitting, hopefully this, the highways remain clear and I can drive. But later tonight, I will be driving to Johnson City, Tennessee. Johnson City, Tennessee. And I'm not going to stop singing. And then I'm going to go skiing or snowboarding or one of the two tomorrow, which I've done.
Go down a hill very fast with something on your feet.
And maybe hurt myself. I've been once, and I went snowboarding when I was like 11, and I fell a lot. I don't know which one's easier, skiing or snowboarding, so I would love it if the chat could help me, like which one I'm least likely to severely injure myself doing. But my, some of my friends from college, actually all my friends from college, like my housemates, I lived in a big house with a bunch of guys. One of them is moving to Arizona across the country. guys live different places, but he's the first one to really leave like across the country. And so we're doing a little trip before he goes, just like a weekend of hitting the ski lodge. So that should be a great time.
So I've never done either snow ski or snowboard. I have water skied, but from what I understand and what the chat's saying, skiing is easier to start. Snowboarding is probably more fun. I think there's probably more opportunities.
Yeah, people are saying skiing is less likely for injuries. That surprises me. I just feel like I would like a knee injury, like tearing an ACL or something like that. It
happens. Like I'm
skiing, but you're not going to tear an ACL snowboarding. I don't feel like.
Why? You could absolutely do that.
Well, like I just feel like your feet being attached to the board and together is a lot easier than maybe like one knee buckling in a certain direction skiing.
Maybe. Yeah, if you're focusing just on the ACL injury, then maybe skiing happens too. But White Bread right here says the wrist and elbows are what hurts snowboarding, which, God, I hate joint injuries make me like cringe like that.
True. I think I'd rather, this is a bad way of going about it. I'd rather have a serious wrist injury though, than like a knee or an ankle or something like that. I think.
Sure.
No, I'm not. I don't want to get hurt. That's the entire.
Yeah, why are you bringing this up? You're doing this to yourself. Sam, you'd rather break your wrist than hurt your ankle. Man, you can't do anything with your hands.
Then I'd rather have. I broke my wrist and my ankle. Granted, I was 3 when I broke my wrist, but
so you weren't doing anything with your hands anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. I feel like I'd at least rather like be able to walk around, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, but there's other ways to get around. This is a different topic. We could go for hours on. Would you rather have a broken wrist or a broken ankle?
And Steve says it like pain sucks, not great. So let's just not have pain. Somebody wanted to know if I knew the name of the song that I was singing earlier. I know every word of that song. Those same college roommates. Wagon Wheel was our like anthem. That was like grab the guitars and we're all just gonna like do Wagon Wheel. So that's my song.
There you go. My good news officially saying this is kind of up your alley or down your alley, one of the two. Last week I said my good news is the show Traitors is back on Peacock.
I love it. You're a Traitors guy?
I got you onto Traitors last year. You don't remember this?
No, you did not get me onto the Traitors.
Yes, I did.
Not me.
Yes, I did.
You were talking to the reality TV guy.
I know. I remember last year. I told you about Traitors like a year ago this time.
I don't know. We'll have to find the receipts on that because I am the reality TV guy. I watch Big Brother. I watch The Challenge. I watch Survivor. Yeah. This season of The Traitors is pretty much all The Challenge, Big Brother, and Survivor. We've got some Bachelor. I have watched The Bachelor in the past. This is I didn't finish last night's episode, so nobody spoiled.
Oh my gosh. I guess my good news today, because last week my good news was Traitors is back. There were 3 episodes that came out last Friday night. Now they're coming out on Thursdays. And so there's 4 episodes available on Peacock. And my good news is that it's living up to what I wanted my hype to be. It's living up to what I wanted to see play out.
You got Dan.
So I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything else. Don't say anything. But yes, it is living up to what I was hoping when I saw the cast.
The selections for the Traitors were basically gimmies by NBC. Like the producers that did this show that were like, who would be a good traitor? It was obvious who they could pick, but the Traitors, having those people as the Traitors makes the show fantastic because it's the very best. And as American Top says, Alan Cumming is just, he's the GOAT. He's
amazing. He's amazing. And so Shrike says he was tweeting at me saying they got him hooked. I saw Jeff say he and his wife are hooked, or somebody said they and their wife are hooked on the Traitors. Oh, here Jeff says, Austin, you got me and my mom hooked on Traitors. Yes. So it's on Peacock.
I kind of have a little bit of beef with the and what Shrike said is a spoiler, so I'm not going to put it on the screen. Right. But I'm just as mad about what he's saying as well. We were robbed, is all I will say. But we were robbed of fantastic television because of one individual leaving too early.
It's still great. That's my good news.
But I have a little bit of beef with the chat, and like they gave me a lot of crap for being like, "Oh, I still watch Survivor." Like every time I bring up a show I watch, they're like, You still watch that? You watch that show?" And now here we are. Everybody's gassing up the traitors all of a sudden. Welcome to reality TV. This stuff is electric. This is the good shows. This is how they make.
If it's a game, if it's like this game is amazing. I love the game.
Garbage reality. I watch competition reality stuff, and it is literally electricity start to finish every time. It look forward to it every week.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. So Traders is living up to the hype. That's my good news. So that'll do it for us. Sandy, you've got Titans at 2 later on this afternoon with more info on the Titans coaching search. I know Buck Rising released an article this morning as well on A2ZSports.com. So you can go check that out for the latest and Buck's thoughts on the Titans coaching search. But make sure before you head out, hit that like button. We need more likes on the show. As always, way more people watch and hit the like button. So that helps us out tremendously. If you hit that like button on Facebook and or YouTube and subscribe to our channel. And that'll do it for us. Sam will be back here in a few hours for Titans at 2. And we'll catch you guys. I'll catch you guys next week. Have a safe weekend and enjoy it. Appreciate it as always.